Welcome to another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. And let's not waste no time. Let's get right to it. So, the 1977-78 Seattle Supersonics. Okay. They had started out the 78 season at 5-17. Okay. And Bob Hopkins was in his first year as the Seattle Supersonics head coach. Okay. Bob Hopkins was the cousin of Bill Russell, who had coached the Sonics for the last couple of seasons. And he succeeded Bill Russell when Bill Russell stepped down after the 77 season. Okay. So, Bob Hopkins is coach. Jack Hickma is a rookie, along with another guy named Joe Hassett. The Sonics started out 5-17. Okay. And Bob Hopkins was an assistant to Coach Russell before he took over as coach for the 78 season. So they're 5-17. They lose to Denver, and Bob Hopkins sees Jack Sikma and Joe Hassett in the hotel in Kansas City because the Sonics have a game against the Kings that night. And Bob Hopkins tells them, hey, Lenny wants to see you. Lenny Wilkins, who at that time was the director of player personnel for the Seattle Supersonics. Lenny wanted to see them. And they said that it was kind of strange because it was mid-noon. Okay. And the team had to leave to go to the arena. Okay. And so the Sonics winning percentage was only like 22.7% at that time, 5-17 record. Then they talked to Lenny Wilkins, and Lenny Wilkins basically tells Jack Hickma, hey, we can win with this current group he got, okay? We can win with this current group, okay? And the current group was Downtown Fred, Eddie Brown, Gus Williams, Jack Hickma. They acquired a guy named Wally Walker from the Portland Trailblazers. Okay. The Seattle Supersonics let Hopkins go, and Lenny Wilkins took over. And he said, we can win with this group, okay? And so the Sonics won that night in Kansas City, and they beat Boston a few days later. That was a part of a 6-game winning streak that the Seattle Supersonics had. Then that winning streak turned into 11 of 12. Then 11 of 12 eventually turned into winning 18 of 21. Okay? And so it was at the halfway point where they were past 500. And they won 42 of their last 60 games. Okay? To finish at 47-35. And I said that they acquired Wally Walker from the Portland Trailblazers, who were 8-1 at that time. Portland was a defending NBA champions. And they had acquired Wally Walker from Portland, who was 8-1 at that time. And the Sonics were 2-10 at that time. Okay. And so it was said that Lenny Wilkins just felt that the Seattle Supersonics just needed some positive reinforcement. Okay. And so the first team meeting that the Sonics had with Lenny Wilkins said, hey, we can win with his group of players we got. You got to remember they also had Lahani Shelton too. Okay. And the players recall looking around at one another and saying, this group right here. We can win with this group right here. But they did. They did. And you also got something else. Seattle actually had a deal to trade downtown Freddie Brown to another team. Okay. The Seattle Supersonics had a deal in place to trade downtown Freddie Brown, but Lenny Wilkens nixed that trade. Okay, so Lenny Wilkens nixes a trade, which is a good thing. And one of the things that Lenny Wilkens also did was he had Jack Sigma, who was a rookie, and Dennis Johnson, who was in his second year. They became starters. Johnson was a defensive presence, okay? And the Sonics also installed a up-tempo offense, which wasn't really all that great because Seattle's identity was on the defensive end of the floor, okay? Seattle's main identity was on the defensive end of the floor. And that's what they were known for. Nonetheless, they finished 47-35. Okay. And nobody saw them advancing to the NBA Finals to face the Washington Bullets, who had won 44 games that year. Washington went 44-38 that year. But Washington had Unseld, Bob Dandridge, Phil Chenier, Randy Ballard, Elvin Hayes. So Washington had some. Washington had some players. They had some players. I think I mentioned Bobby Dandridge. Okay, but Washington had some players. Okay, and the NBA Finals format was wacky. Okay. The NBA Finals format back in 1978 was real wacky. Okay. The NBA Finals format back in 1978 was 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. Okay. Which means the first game would be played in Washington. No. First game would be played in Seattle. Then the next two in Washington. Then the next two in Seattle. Then game 6 in Washington and game 7 back in Seattle. That was the NBA Finals format. 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. Okay. And so I think it changed in 1980 when it was 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. Okay. That format made sense. Okay. Then in 1985 they went to the 2-3-2 format. Okay. So, and as I mentioned a few videos ago, the Boston Celtics felt that they were victimized by the new 2-3-2 format when the Lakers won in 6 games. Okay. So yeah. But Washington won the 78 title. They won game 7 in Seattle, 105-99. Dennis Johnson went 0 for 14 in that game 7. Okay. He went 0 for 14 in game 7. But no, the Sonics were this close after starting the season 5-17, which you would give even an NBA team to this day. An NBA team starts out the season 5-17. Okay. And the shot to make the playoffs, much less the NBA Finals, 0.1%. Okay. Okay, so, but the Seattle Supersonics, they had heart. And Lenny Wilkens took over as head coach. And that was the shot in the arm that they needed. They lost the title in 78 to Washington. Then the rematch in 79 when the Sonics added Marvin Webster and Paul Silas. Okay. And so the rematch was no match. The Sonics won in 5 games to claim their first NBA title. Okay. So the coaching change was made, and that set off a good period for the Sonics right there. Unfortunately, the Los Angeles Lakers also had Magic Johnson by the 1980 season. So so it just so happened to be the Lakers who knocked out the Sonics in the Western Conference Finals in 1980. So Magic Johnson comes along. That's pretty much the end for Seattle in the West. All right. That's it. That's all for Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. May God bless you all. Peace out, y'all.